Happy Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 218. That's right, 218. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with Pucks and Pitchforks blog editor-in-chief Nick Villano, coming to you live from the Primetime Radio Studios in the bunker, North Jersey, South Jersey, undisclosed locations. Streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network. Nick, you look grumpy because I think your commute to work takes 45 minutes longer to get around that overpass. Am I right about that?
I mean, I don't got to deal with it. Not me. Not I.
Oh, I thought you would. I thought you would.
I work in Mount Laurel.
Oh. Was it in the northbound side of I-95 or the southbound side?
It's northbound, but I live in New Jersey, and I work in Mount Laurel. Why would I go to Pennsylvania?
Oh. Well, you know what? This conspiracy theories out there is that, well, we're trying to sell out MetLife Stadium and giving the Flyer fans a difficult time for them to get there. They're going to say it's going to take months to fix. That big fire on I-95 that collapsed.
What's longer, the fixing I-95 or the rebuild in Philadelphia? What takes longer?
I think the rebuild in Philadelphia, but they're making a lot of moves. I mean, they're shedding a lot of weight, so to speak. They're starting over. They're ripping off the Band-Aid on the Band-Aid on the Band-Aid on the big wound called the Philadelphia Flyers. We've gone through that.
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about the Metro, because the Metro has been front and center in the news outside of Vegas Golden Knights. Congrats to the Vegas Golden Knights winning the Stanley Cup championship. Anybody who wants to say something to the ilk of they don't deserve it because they haven't been around it long, get out of here with that nonsense. Good for them. Great fan base. I love a lot of things with the Golden Knights. But beyond that, the headlines have been all Metropolitan Division, right? There's the trade that Columbus made for Provorov. That it also involved Los Angeles, but it was Columbus and Philadelphia were the main pieces. And then Columbus trades for Damon Severson, signs him to an 8-year deal. Happy? How do you? Let's start with that, since that's Devils related. How do you feel about the Severson trade?
Well, you knew Severson was going to be a goner. Not because he sucked or not because we hate Severson, not because of all the bad luck things that he's faced. We knew he was going to be gone because the future and the new era of Simon Nemec and Luke Hughes is upon us. The future is now. And there's just simply no room. I mean, unless you go with 4 pairings, 4 deep pairings, which Lindy would never do, just to get a third rounder out of that deal when the Devils need picks right now because they traded quite a bit for Timo Meier. So I think that was an excellent win-win for everybody. Win-win for everybody. I think Columbus is going to have they're going to love Damon Severson. Their top 4 looks a lot better than what happened this past season. So I think everybody wins here. I'm a little surprised that Fitzy would maybe do a, inside the division trade, but the Flyers did as well. So I think everybody wins here.
Yeah, and I do think he sold to the highest bidder. I thought we were getting a 5th, or the Devils. I thought the Devils were going to get a 5th, and they got 3rd. Huge. And do you know what makes it even bigger, Sam?
What?
Is you get the 3rd round pick, and that you basically, it's ironic because, right, why did the Devils not have a 3rd round pick in this draft?
Tell me why.
The John Marino trade. So the guy who replaced Severson, you get the asset back. Ty Smith is a lost asset. Dude he's in Jupiter when it comes to NHL prospects. he might never play in the NHL again. Like, dude is just lost. I don't know what's going on with him. But, I mean, that was a sunk asset when you traded it to them and you threw a third-round pick. And looking at the season as a whole, Sam, I think John Marino was their best defenseman on a good defense. I think John Marino is the best defenseman on this team. You know, Dougie Hamilton's a fantastic offensive defenseman, but every time he gets an injury, he goes down like 35%. And Jonas Siegenthaler, when Hamilton goes down that 35%, comes down with him. Like he's trying to make up for too much. Maybe Luke Hughes is as good as advertised and immediately becomes like, he pulls a Kale McCarr and is great the day he steps on the ice. And it looks like that might be true. He was fantastic. He makes mistakes, but he's fantastic on the ice. But besides that, I think it's Marino, right? And I think you got to pair Marino with Luke Hughes next year because I think that pairing is going to be deadly.
Marino is the best overall defenseman on the Devils because I think Dougie's upside offensively is better than Marino, but
fair.
But Dougie doesn't have Marino's defensive skills or recovery, so to speak. There's Dougie Hamilton is a liability at times. Let's be honest.
I need to figure out I need somebody smarter than me to tell me why Dougie Hamilton kind of didn't skate half the time. Is there a value to staying back slightly on a 2-on-1 to just in case something else happens? Like, was he covering a third man? Like, what? I could count. I need both of my hands to count how many times Dougie Hamilton was caught in a goal where he was just kind of like not skating hard back. So I have to think he did it so many times. I have to think there's some kind of thought process behind it. Like maybe he wants to start maybe he thinks that he can break out an offensive play if they don't score. I don't know. There's no way that he just didn't try. He's a $9 million man, and he's a good hockey player. So
yeah,
that's the only that might be like what's sticking in my head is kind of that. But as far as Severson goes, you basically recoup the asset that you lost in the John Marino trade. The Devils now have picks in, I think, every round besides the first, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, so they're, you don't have to worry about, because that's the one knock on Tom Fitzgerald, is that when he's missing a pick, he'll reach. Every time. The reason he took Chase Stillman is because the reason he took Shakir Mukhamadullin is because he didn't have a second-round pick. So he reached on Shakir Mukhamadullin, which is fine. Like at this point, it doesn't really matter because he was a big part of the Timo Meier trade. But he reached on Shakir Mukhamadullin because he didn't have a second-round pick. So he wasn't going to get him if he didn't take him 20th overall, right? And were they missing a second-round pick when they took Stillman?
Let's see here. Let's go to Google right now.
Was that 2021 or
yeah.
2022? That was 2021, right?
That was the Luke Hughes draft. Yep. Nick, you should be doing your research.
I'm sorry. I talked myself into it. So, yeah, they didn't have a second-round pick that year. So, yeah. So,
all right.
Again, they take Chase Stillman way higher than he was supposed to go because they didn't have a second-round pick. So, they were worried they were going to lose the asset. And there was a lot of really good players on the board at that time, and that's kind of, it hurts. It hurts for this team. It's I just think about what kind of position they'd be in if instead of Stillman they took Aturatu, who's now with Vancouver. Just a really good prospect. I always really liked him. But there's a couple other people that people liked, who was Owen Zellweger, somebody a lot of people liked on defense. But anyway, we don't have to really talk about the draft. We got a couple more weeks of that. Logan Stankoven was actually the player I was thinking of. He could have been really good for this team. But anyway, that when Fitzy doesn't have a pick, he reaches. That's the point. He will take a fourth-round pick in the second round if he doesn't have a third-round pick because he's worried that he's not going to get that asset. And he falls in love with draft players. He usually plays it safe with first picks. But if he has a later pick and he doesn't have a pick in the next round, he makes weird moves. Makes weird moves, man. And I'm glad that he got that third-round pick, so we don't have to worry about that in the second round, because the second round is where the Devils have to make an impact because they don't have a first-round pick this year.
Yeah. Well, yet. Remember, yet.
Yeah.
Could it be?
Yeah, and Jeremy Goldstein wrote an article on pucksypitchforks.com this week about getting a first-round pick. How can they do that? And he outlined two ways. The first way is the obvious way. If you trade Brad or Meyer, you're going to get a first-round pick this year. That's going to be part of the deal. So, you were looking at some of the teams that could do it. Washington's an interesting name. There was another team that he mentioned, but it's
well, it's interesting you mentioned Washington and the Metro getting all the headlines in the past couple of weeks. Tom Wilson's name's been bounced around. What are your thoughts on that?
I hear it all the time. All the time. Devils should get Tom Wilson. Devils should get Tom. I can't sit here and tell you that I've hated all of those big hits, those dirty hits. I don't like them. I don't really want to be that team. There are hard hitters. There are tough players out there that don't break people's necks or put them out of commission. I don't want to play like that.
Is Florida the team to beat in the East, or is it still Boston?
It's neither of them.
Who's the team?
I think Carolina has a say in that. I think Carolina's up there. I think Toronto is in a weird spot. I got to see what Toronto does this offseason, especially in net. If Toronto gets Toronto's the team we're not talking about Hellebuyck. Wouldn't it make a lot of sense for them to put it if they put Matthew Nyes and another piece together and make the salaries work by sending them Murray and something else? They could very easily get Hellebuyck. Very easily. And so, I'm very worried about Toronto making a move like that. You got to worry about Tampa because Tampa's now rested. That's the thing we're not talking about. They went through 3 playoff things. They got, they lost this year because they just ran out of gas, which is fine. They were facing a really good team. But now they're rested. Now they got an entire offseason to rest their bodies. Stamkos, Hedman, Vasilevsky, they're still a great team. Florida's good, but Sam, did you see the laundry list of injuries they had?
Yeah.
Montour, Kachuk, and Ekblad, and a lot of these players might not make it to start the season, and then they have to rush to catch up.
Yeah.
And here's my point, is that a lot of people are singing the graces of Paul Maurice, and congratulations on having a really good run, but they don't make the playoffs if Pittsburgh beats Chicago. They don't make the playoffs. They missed the playoffs. They had, and I get it's better to be lucky than good, but that is asking for a lot. Asking for Chicago to beat a desperate Pittsburgh team, so I just don't see them as being the team to beat. Yeah, I just, I think New York is a really good team, but they're in a weird spot.
Problems. They had all sorts of problems, but
yeah,
in the end there, when it counted, they came through. So
yeah, but that was Bobrovsky too, right?
Yeah.
They had 2 just stupendous players, and Bobrovsky and Kachuk. And Bobrovsky just, I don't know if he doesn't care in the regular season, but just something's off. He's just hasn't been a good regular season goalie. And I just can't put them up there. Actually, let me look at, because the odds are out, and I think the Devils are 4th, right, in odds.
Oh, I don't gamble.
All right, but they're fun to look at. So the Stanley Cup odds for 2024, it goes Avalanche, Oilers, Bruins, Maple Leafs. I think the Devils are tied with the Maple Leafs. Let me just double check this. I'm waiting for a website to load. I'm sorry, not great radio, guys. So the Avalanche are 9-1. The Oilers and Maple Leafs are 10-1. Okay, so the Devils are actually tied with the Hurricanes and the Golden Knights at 13-1 to win the Stanley Cup. That's wild. That is wild. I will say, one of the best prediction articles I wrote is about at this time last year, I said, you should bet on the Devils to win the Stanley Cup and then cash out when they have a good start to the season or make a big splash in the offseason. That was one of my better articles because you would have made a lot of money. The Rangers are right behind us at 15-1. The Lightning and the Stars are 17-1. Man, if the Stars, like, if Ottinger figures out what happened in that series against the Knights and becomes a superstar goalie again, they got all the pieces. And they had a weird series because Robertson was bad in the playoffs, and he was a superstar all year. And then the Panthers are 19-1. And then it gets weird. Then it's the Flames, which makes no sense. The Flames should not be this high. Then it's Minnesota. It's Pittsburgh. Again, we're weird now. Buffalo and Ottawa. Winnipeg, Detroit, the Islanders, the Kraken. You know, we're in weird places now. But yeah, I mean, if you're telling me if I had to pick one team to win next year out of the East, I think it's Carolina. I think it's something they're right there, right? And they were missing so many pieces this year with Svechnikov and Pacioretty and Teravainen, and you know Freddie Anderson was kind of in there and kind of not, and kind of in there and kind of not, and they had Antti Ranta, the same situation, but they have to figure out the goaltending like everybody else. Just because I feel like that's the one thing they need to get over the hump. They need Svechnikov to stay healthy with Aho, and they need the goaltending to get over the hump. So that's another team. Hellebuyck. I think he's going to get moved because I'm actually writing an article right now, Sam, about the 5 free agent goaltenders the Devils should target. And obviously we don't, the starters are few and far between. There's 2 people I would say are starters on there. But who's the best goalie on the free agent market? Is it Aiden Hill now? Is that like where we're going? Or would you rather have a Tristan Jarry who has more of a track record of starter success?
Well, obviously, Aiden Hill's stock is so high right now. Is it kind of like Kemper as well? So, again, it's what again, I'll go back to the what I said on the Woo report or on the Morning Woo this morning was you don't need a $8 to $10 million a year goaltender to win the Stanley Cup. Here's another example. But you do need a great goalie coach. And congratulations to Sean Burke for winning the Cup. He came in June of last season, and he got credited, him and Freddie Brathwaite, if you remember that name, who used to play in the NHL.
The name sounds familiar. I'm sure it's, yeah.
Oh, Freddie? He used to, I think he was on the Calgary Flames years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, the name, this sounds familiar, but it's, there's so many hockey names that go through your head.
Yeah, and then George McVie, another Devil, and who else? And you got to credit David Conti as well because, his time there was 2 years prior to the team ever stepping out on the ice, and he put that whole expansion thing, that whole thing together, and being the director of scouting for the Knights in I believe the first 2 years, and some of those original players, that were still there and that won the Cup last night. It's pretty remarkable in 6 years that they were able to get it done. They almost got it done in the first year.
Mm-hmm. Do you think he had a say in the expansion draft as the director of scouting? Or do you think he was focusing on just the regular draft?
I believe he had a big say. I mean, he was there from the beginning.
Yeah.
After he got fired by the new regime, so to speak.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean that's the thing about this is just it takes a village, right? It just takes a village to win a Stanley Cup. But the point I was trying to make 15 minutes ago, Sam, is are you not excited about being in the Metro right now? The Flyers full rebuild, right? They're not even Torts isn't even going to get those stupid wins that he's getting out of other teams. They traded Provorov, which I don't think is that big of a deal. He wasn't that good, but they're going to trade Hart, and I think that's going to tank them because there's just too many teams that need a goalie.
Yeah.
That's why I think Hellebuyck and Hart are both going to get traded. And then you got Columbus, who's going all in on the wrong players. Like, I like David Severson. I think he makes sense on a lot of teams. Does not make sense at Columbus.
I just think their foundation is not there.
Yeah,
in Columbus.
And then they hired Mike Babcock. Like, why?
I think there's going to be dysfunction on that team. Eventually.
I think Babcock makes sense for somebody. And, I know there's a lot of opinions about him. I tend to take I put him in a different category than like the Bill Peters of the world. He definitely deserved to get asked hard questions about how he treated players. But based on what I hear, he was just kind of a jerk. And being a jerk, you deserve to be called out for that, but I don't know if you can't ever be told you can't learn. But again, this is his coaching style. So he's going to do that again to the Johnny Gaudreaus and the Zach Werenskis. And, this team wants to get younger. And is that going to be when you, a lot of the things I saw was that Damon Severson oversaw this team go from loser to winner. It's I get he was here, but I don't foresee that being the reason why they turned it around. And then they traded for Provorov. So I just don't think they got that much better, because now Damon Severson's your number one right-handed defenseman, and when he was the number one right-handed defenseman for the Devils, it was bad. Mm-hmm. You had Subban as the second, and I thought Subban was at least a decent number two. But Severson, when you have Severson as your number one, and then you have Subban as your number two, then you're in bad shape. So beyond that, you got the Rangers hiring Laviolette, which I think is better than Hines.
Yeah, much better than Hines, but that's not saying much.
Yeah, listen, I think Hines makes sense in the right place. And New York is the opposite of that. He needs a young team that will trust his every move. And he would have made sense in Anaheim, maybe Calgary.
What about Columbus? Hines.
Yeah, better than New York, right? That was New York was just the worst possible place for Hines. Just made zero sense. I will die on the hill that New York waited this entire time because they wanted Sheldon Keefe. They would have stood outside the Bell Center to sign Sheldon Keefe, but he's still kind of not available. I don't really know what's going on there, but he's not available at the moment that we're talking.
What's the draft this year?
Nashville.
Oh, that's right.
It's on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Yeah.
What day is it?
The 28th. You should know this. We'll be at Enzo's. Pasta Grill by Enzo's.
I knew it was. Okay. We got to figure. Okay. We'll talk, because I think we got to do. We'll figure. I think maybe we move the State of the Fan address that week to Friday. What do you think about a big play our free agency?
Whoa. Hey, I'm doing nothing on July 1st. Happy Canada Day.
What day of the week is that? Is that a Friday or Saturday?
Saturday.
Right?
July 1st is a Saturday.
Oh, that's strange.
Yeah. I'll be here in the bunker.
NHL really screwed the pooch. Free agency day is great to follow at work and kind of have on in the background and all that. And draft day is great to have on a Thursday or a Friday night where you can drink with your buddies and watch the draft. How did you screw this up?
I don't know.
Whatever. I don't need to go into it. Anyway, point is that Laviolette, I'm not I think they're going to be worse with Laviolette than they were with Gallant. I like Gallant better as a coach, especially for this group, than Laviolette.
Do you know what Peter Laviolette looks like? He always reminds me of when he was younger. That guy on the Titanic, Hockley.
Is he the guy that got cheated on?
Yeah.
Rose's wife or husband or whatever he was,
or fiance, if you're
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I see it. That guy was a younger version of Laviolette. I see it.
Yeah. Anytime I watch that scene where Rose and him were talking, and the maid was there, or their servant was there, and he flips the table. You will honor me. Like, that's what I think of Peter Laviolette. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Billy Zane. Yeah, he was also
there you go.
He was also in the Back to the Future as well. He was one of Biff's homies in the back before they got hit.
He was in something else
manure.
big. Was he in, like, not Karate Kid? Where he was in something, right? Something else big. Anyway, It doesn't matter. We're going off on a tangent. Anyway, so you go down the rest of the teams. The Hurricanes are the team that still scares me. But the Islanders, like, they're trying to run it back with a team that's only getting older. And Lou has said that. He wants to run it back. He wants to sign all of his free agents. He wants to, like, spend a ton of money. He wants to do the same exact thing he's been doing. So the Islanders don't really scare you. Pittsburgh, I like Dubas. Think he's a really smart guy. Don't love that for the Devils long term. But, like, what can he do with this roster? This roster is, like, stuck. You know what I mean? And then they're losing Jari. So, like, is Casey DeSmith going to be? There's no way Casey DeSmith is going to be their number one goalie. So they're going to do something. But, like, what? Like, they don't seem like a good Hellebuck team because they don't really have the assets. They don't seem like a good Carter Hart team because Philly's not going to trade him to Pittsburgh. Maybe they go after, like, a Corpusalo or I don't know.
Or a Mackenzie Blackwood.
God, that makes me feel worse. I'd rather do DeSmith. The guy I'm looking at if I'm Pittsburgh is Swayman in Boston. I think that's a smart move for them, and I'm going to advocate that the Devils do that move as well. Because if you're gonna go for a goalie, you got to make the smart move. And while Hellebuck is the right move because it helps you win now, it hurts your chance of winning in the future. And you can't do that. I think Swayman is a good move to kind of like, maybe a higher upside Vanacek. Like Vanacek was the high upside move, and like you got everything you possibly could out of him, and it just came to roost in the playoffs. But I think, or maybe I'm just looking at like the list of like free agents right now. Are you who? I don't know, Sam. I don't. That's why I think it might just make more sense just to stick with what you got. Like, there's just nothing. There's nothing.
Well, they got to
great.
sign some key players here. The Devils are addition by subtraction because right now another year of maturity is going to outweigh any kind of move that you're going to make right now. So you got to lock up Bratt. You got to lock up Meyer. If Bratt is being a brat, he's out of here.
Well, okay, let me ask you this. Because this gets me annoyed. This gets me hot under the collar, Sam.
Good. That's my whole goal. I'm trolling you right now.
So you want him out of here, but if you're at your job, right, and that you can get another job doing the same exact thing, but getting paid $8 million, and your job keeps offering you $6 million, would you not wait and just be like, well, somebody's going to, I know I'm worth $8 million. I know I'm worth $8 million. And what bothers me is I don't even think this is Bratt. I think Bratt hates this. Everything that I've seen and I've heard about Bratt specifically is that Bratt hates this. Wants to just be signed. Would have signed last year. But his agent has no other great clients except for one. He has one now.
I have a rebuttal on that, but keep on going. My rebuttal will just completely change your mind.
Okay, so give me your rebuttal. Is it about the agent?
Well, yeah, and this is my rebuttal. Change agents then.
Yeah.
You allowed this to happen, Bratt.
I'm not saying Bratt is blameless. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm not trading him because his agent sucks.
As a matter of fact, this is what he should do, okay? If he really wants to stay here and his agent is just penny pinching Tom Fitzgerald, you fire your agent, now you don't have to pay that commission, and then boom, sign the deal. With an attorney.
Sounds like a lawsuit, but
hey, you know what? If you really want to stay here,
Yeah. I think this is the issue, Sam. Is I don't think it's money. I think they know the money. Everything I've heard, they know the money. Everybody is pretty much on board with the money. It's the years. I think that the Devils are sitting on 8. I think that the Brat camp are between 3 and 5 because they want to cash the cow one more time after it.
To tell you the truth, honestly, I would do the I'd rather do the 3 or 4 year if I were Tom Fitzgerald, because you're out of that deal.
But so it is the negotiation outside of negotiations or any problem you have with Brat?
Playoff. What he did in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't great in the playoffs.
He was
his underlying numbers were weirdly good, so something was there. I don't know why. I think he's tentative in pressure situations, and you have to fix that. But that can be fixed.
Yeah.
He was getting in good areas and then not making the right decision. But that can be fixed.
Again, Timo Meier, again, do you think that's going to go through?
That one worries me. But we find out on Friday how rough this negotiation is going to be.
Yeah.
Because on Friday is the deadline for team signed arbitration.
I thought it was tomorrow. Or was it
Is
Friday?
it the 15th or was it the 16th? Maybe you're right. Maybe it's the 15th.
Yeah.
Either way, we'll know very soon. We'll know very soon whether the Devils want to make this a dogfight or if they want this to be smooth. Because let me ask you this, Sam. Timo Meier's a new asset. Clearly the best fit for a winger for this team. Would you disagree?
No, I think he's a perfect fit for this team.
So you definitely want to keep everybody happy. He's not a guy Brat's been here. He's friends with these guys. He shared a picture of Severson after he left and said he was sad. Things like that. You're not gonna get that from Timo Meier. But you do have this fit. And you know that if the money talks, this is going to be a really good team for a really long time. And the Devils have to figure out what that opportunity cost is. He's not going to sign for under Jack's deal, so we just need to stop. We need to stop saying that. He's not going to sign for under $8 million a year. So give him 9, call it a day, sign him for 8 years, and just be done with it. I think that you just got to kind of swallow your pride on this one and just give him the money and prove yourself with the money. Because here's the thing, Sam. You got to deal with these big contracts for 2 more years, and then the cap's going to go up. Unless something crazy happens, and everything crazy has happened to cause this cap to truncate. The pandemic, the rights deals, and the local RSNs. All these things have happened to throw things for a loop. And then you get a Florida Vegas series. I think how much were tickets a ton in Vegas? Have you heard of that? I know they were.
I don't
crazy
see the
in
problem is I don't know if some of these memes were fake, but I don't know. I thought I saw somebody saying that he paid $48,000 for his tickets in Vegas.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's it's.
But again, I don't know what's fake or what's not. So.
Yeah, if you had a Toronto Stanley Cup, you'd probably make up for it. It's a reality that if you go into these crazy hockey markets, and I think Vegas is one of them, but if you go into some of these high money markets, not even the advertising dollars, because the NHL doesn't see that really. They'll see it on certain things, but they don't see it on the TV, which is the big money maker, because they already made their money on the ESPN and TNT deal. So that's not what they're looking at. What they're looking at is more the the ticket sales and the the revenue from inside the arena and the locations and all the events that are happening around the arena and the advertisement for those. That's where the big money is coming in for the NHL for this. So I think that it's great that like we're seeing really good ratings from a Florida team, but they still lost money. They still lost that revenue that they're going to make up. Not a ton, but the point being to get back around in the circle is that you're not going to get this microcosm of so many different things that are going to impact the cap. The cap is going to go up $4 or $5 million in a couple of years. So that's going to more than make up the $800,000 you are between Timo Meyer and yourself. And I'd argue that for Bratt too. Like, you're not, like, what do you think you're getting for Bratt? What would you accept for Bratt? Like, are you looking to get assets to trade for something else? Or are you looking to trade him for Hellebuyck or Tom Wilson?
That's a tough question. I think anything you can get for Bratt, whether it's assets or to win now, will be a slam dunk. I mean, just remember.
What do you mean anything? You're going to trade him for Provorov?
Well, I didn't mean that anything, but what I meant is really, I mean, essentially, because I'm all about where things came from. Essentially, Bratt was a 6th-round pick way back when, and look, anything you get for him, it's a step up. I mean, Severson was a 2nd-round pick back in 2012?
Yeah. 2012.
And then you managed to get a 3rd-round pick after 10 years of service? Not bad. Not bad.
I mean, yeah, Severson was a slam dunk. If they got a 5th-round pick for Ryan Graves, slam dunk.
But the Adam Larson thing is just absolutely amazing. What that has become. 4th overall pick back in 2011, where it is now. It's just absolutely amazing, and it's the gift that keeps on giving too. So that's interesting.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, like now it's what is it? It's Kevin Ball, Dawson Mercer, Jonas Siegenthaler, and part of Timo Meyer. That's
Correct.
what Adam Larson turned into.
Yeah.
And Dawson Mercer, I think he might take another step next year. Everybody thought he was going to have a sophomore slump this year, and he did not. He looked like him at times this season. He was the best guy on the ice at times this season.
Because of Dawson Mercer, I still have hope for Alexander Holtz.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with Holtz. I'm going to write about it pretty soon, but I don't know. He might not fit. And how much credence do you put into that? How much credence do you put into fitting? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm trying to figure out where he would fit. And right now he fits on the Eric Halla line. Because that's the one that's moving at his pace. And then putting him on the first power play. And that's fine. Honestly, if that's what he is, if he's a 3rd liner who scores 15 to 20 goals a year and half of them are on the power play and he makes the power play better, fine. Just pretend he was taken in Dawson Mercer's spot and Mercer was taken in Holtz's spot, and then everything's fine. I think that's where we agree in terms of looking at the opportunity cost.
I got a good way to change the mindset. It was a COVID draft. What were we supposed to do? We didn't have much scouting, so we got a little shuffled up a little bit.
I don't know. That draft was stacked to the gills.
Yeah.
2020, and but and I say that, and now that I really say it out loud, hold on, I have the wrong draft up. I have the NFL draft. That doesn't help us. Who did you really want in 2020 where you took Holtz? So I'm looking at it. Most people will say Jack Quinn, who I hated that pick. I was wrong, but I hated that pick when the Sabres made it. Marco Rossi would be a really interesting name there, but he's had a really tough go of it since he had those struggles with COVID. But you start going down the list, Seth Jarvis has been super streaky for the Hurricanes. He's been, he's good, sure, but he's very streaky. You know, then you're looking at like Dylan Holloway or Cole Perfetti. You know, Oscarov is like the obvious name that, like, if you have Oscarov right now, you're kind of looking at this team different, right? If you took the goalie.
Let me ask you this. Who would you rather have? Lafreniere or Holtz?
I'm still saying Lafreniere. I think he's a failure of coaching.
I would agree.
But
I
think
Dawson,
about it.
but look at Dawson Mercer versus Lafreniere. I mean, it's.
I mean, if you're the Rangers, like, you hate yourself, right? Because not only did you take the wing, and like he was the obvious number one, so like, you know, you can't hate them that much. But look at the next two wingers off the board: Tim Stützle, and Lucas Raymond. Two players that look like two of the best young players in this league. I know Raymond had a down year slightly, but Stützle looks like he looks like he's going to be like, you know, the Jack Hughes of his draft.
Yeah.
You know, and Jake Sanderson looks pretty good for Ottawa, and Jamie Drysdale had a down year because of injury, but he looked really good 2 years ago. You know.
Yeah.
Byfield looks like he's almost ready. So, if you're the Rangers, Lafreniere,
just want to give a shout out to Joseph DiGirolamo. Hi from Florida. Go Devils. Dennis, Steve Engel, Ted, Felix, JP. A lot of people tuning in on the YouTube Live. Nick.
It's good.
Yeah.
But I think we got to wrap up, Sam, because I think I hear a screaming baby in the background.
All right. Well, that's last call. I guess I got a lot to plug, but why don't you plug first, Nick?
Okay. So I already plugged that there will be a 5 free agent goaltenders to watch story coming out tomorrow morning. The next morning, I'm going to do another free agent piece. I got wingers. Actually, we had Marcy Rubin talk about 3 defensive free agents to replace David Severson. That's up on the pucksandpitchforks.com right now. I talked about Jeremy Goldstein talking about how the Devils could trade back into the first round of the draft. Jersey Joe is talking about building a winning group using asset management. I wrote a story about, does it make sense to trade Jesper Bratt for Mitch Marner? That got a lot of people talking, Sam, especially the Maple Leafs fans. And you know the Maple Leafs fans, they are very realistic and not crazy at all.
You know what? We should start trolling the Maple Leafs fans.
Yeah. I mean, I do it like half the time.
Yeah.
And then we have a couple
I'm going to
pieces.
propose a Bratt for Austin Matthews.
Let's do it. And then Vinny Parisi and Luke Garrison both wrote pieces on Severson. So go check that out. That's on pucksandpitchforks.com right now.
All right. Pucksandpitchforks.com. All right, so I got a couple things to plug. Number one, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Let's Go Devils. On Twitter at Let's Go Devils Pod, and on Facebook at Let's Go Devils Podcasts. Also subscribe to our podcast pages, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. But Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Again, Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern, this Sunday. We're going to have a special guest, a good friend of the podcast, who just won his first Stanley Cup as the goalie coach of the Golden Knights. Sean Burke will be on the podcast. And, you want to stay tuned to that. Also, June 28th, we don't have a draft pick yet, but we're just going to sit around and hang out and drink at Pasta Grill by Enzo's in beautiful Hackettstown, New Jersey, off of Route 57. Yes, Pasta Grill by Enzo's. We'll be outside, weather permitting, just hanging out. Shorts Guy will be there. Beer Baron's going to tune in from he's going to be on a cruise. He's going to somehow virtually be there. And, yeah. Yes, Sean Burke.
You say so.
Yeah.
Yep. I meant not about Sean Burke, about Beer Baron. But
oh, yeah. Anyway, I'm just reading some of the comments on the Facebook Live. Steve Engel's trying to be funny. Anyway. All right. Well, thank you, Nick. Thank you to all those tuning in. Remember to go to pucksandpitchforks.com. Great website for all your Devils needs. And, yeah. I don't know when I'm going to see you next, Nick. We'll have to work on the scheduling. But something's going to happen on next Wednesday.
Yeah. Something.
Yeah.
I trust it.
Yeah. All right. Well, dropping the podcast at midnight. Morning Woo tomorrow morning. Till next time, let's go Devils.